Hi, welcome to another episode of 6 Cents Out of a Nickel. If you're new to this channel, please introduce yourself in the comments below and tell me what you may like about this video or how you think I might be able to improve. I'm here to serve you. Thanks. This is probably going to be somewhat of a longer video, but I want to talk about the myth of the middle class. There's a lot of rambling and rumbling about how the middle class is shrinking, and nobody seems to know what the middle class is. Everyone has their own definition of what the middle class is, and everyone thinks they're in it. When in actuality, middle class is like the people in the middle. If you're making $100,000 a year or darn close to it, you can't really call yourself middle class. That's not where the average person is making their money. And anybody who thinks that's middle class, obviously they haven't looked for a job lately. Most jobs, they seem to start out around 17 to 20 bucks an hour, in that range, 20, 21. Let's deconstruct it a little bit. You have the people in the middle class. That's the idea. The not the high end, not the low end, people in the middle. And to be people in the middle, you have to take kind of like an average of who is, like, obviously you got people who don't make any money and they're at the low end, and you got people that, like teachers and nurses, they make a lot of money, and that's kind of more at the high end, and middle would be somewhere in the, middle. But too many people kind of have the idea that middle class is a lot higher than what it is. They have the idea that middle class is the expectation that they can spend money without having to worry. I know millionaires who they don't spend money without having to worry. They're constantly worrying. That's kind of the nature of things. I just don't understand why people who make exceptionally good money just can't take ownership and accept the fact that they're doing well. They're doing better than average. They can't accept their good fortune for some reason. They always have to think they're in the middle. I don't know whether it's a state of the fact they always feel inadequate. Or maybe some people just can't accept the fact that they've been given this good fortune, and they're still having a hard time making a go of things. I don't know. Tomorrow we have education support workers that are threatening to go on strike. And the big issue they've accentuated is the fact that they don't seem to get paid enough. The ECEs, early childhood educators, the teachers' assistants, make about $39,000 a year, and the custodians make about $49,000. And they're just saying, well, no, that's not enough. Well, first of all, if you're a teacher's assistant, you're a teacher's assistant. When I went to school, there were no assistants for the teachers. The teachers had to do it all themselves. They didn't have time to spend with each individual student. But what they would do is they'd have a lot of group activities. And so that the teacher knew when they interacted with this particular group, they were talking to a certain type of individual, and when they were talking to this particular group, they were talking to a certain type of individual. So the teachers really did use their time more effectively back in the days. So the fact that there's a teacher's assistant at all, I mean, I'm amazed at that's an ordinary, regular thing. I'm amazed that that's even just a regular job now. To make $39,000 a year, maybe you should make a little bit more, but I don't make much more than that. $39,000 a year, that's let's do the quick math on that, about $19.50 an hour. That's pretty average nowadays. If you've gone looking for a job recently, you're going to find jobs between 17, 20, 21. 19 certainly falls into that category. And as far as the custodians making $49,000 a year, and that's not enough, I mean, I work in a hospital and make $45. To make 49, that's pretty darn good. Really, this is what working people make. This is the type of wage that working people make. And I've heard people even in my own pay grade, they're going, well, that's not enough. Like, do you not know what you make in a year? I guess some people don't, because it's the same as we're making. So I don't understand how they could be, oh, they don't make enough. Well, then we don't make enough. But we do. We live just fine in with the money we have. No, at this pay grade, we're not, flying off to Cancun every other month, and we're not taking extravagant vacations and staying at resorts and whatnot. But I mean, we can afford to eat. We eat good food. The house is warm and dry. It may not be the prettiest, but it's warm and dry. Um, I don't understand. I think the biggest problem is that middle class was kind of established in like the 50s and 60s during a time when one person could work, like my dad worked and my mother never did, where one person could work and pay the bills, and they could go on annual vacations, and they could buy new cars every few years. They had some kind of an RV. The money really wasn't a tremendous worry for these people on one income. And I think as time went on and situations changed, I think people forgot to adapt a little bit. So you have everybody trying to live to this same unrealistic standard. Like, you can't live like that today, especially on one income, and it's really tough to do it on two. So I think people are just trying to live to an unrealistic standard that they can't afford. And they're choosing to call this unrealistic standard middle class. Well, okay, maybe it was middle class in the 50s and the 60s, but as time went on and things got a little bit more complicated, the standard of living came down a little bit, and it had to. It really had to, because there's no way with 8 billion people on this planet now that we can all be driving new cars and living in big houses and taking vacations all the time. You have a lot of the world that doesn't even have running water. Why do these people think that they deserve a lifestyle that is so luxurious and so high? I get it when you're young. You look on TV, you look at music videos, you look at movies, you look at sitcoms, you look around you, and the type of life that's being glamorized is something that is generally unattainable. We kind of live in a Kardashian society where everybody wants to be rich and famous for no apparent reason, just like them. But that's not really the case for the average person. Most of us are just basically meant to exist, do our work, raise our families, and then die. That's pretty much it. We just move on and hand it all over to the next generation for them to make an impact on the world. And I think as we get older, we really do learn that. Like, I'm almost 50. I'm learning that I can't really make an impact on the world like I thought I would years and years ago. I can still make an impact, but it's not going to be the I'm not going to be on the news. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be rich and famous. I just want to help as many people as I can while I'm here, do as much good as I can, and then when it's my turn to go to pass, I can say, hey, I did some good for the world, and I left the world in better condition than when I came in, or at least I did more good than I did bad. If you really want to get a good idea of what middle class really is, look at how people live generally, not just the people around you. Because the people around you are going to be kind of in the same level or dynamic as you're in. Like, for example, if you're a teacher, you're going to know a lot of teachers and people who make that level of income. But look around you. Look at the people that make far less than you, and you will see that as you go down the income stream, the numbers of people that have to live at that income actually swell. To the point where when you get down to minimum wage, that's probably the largest cohort of workers. You have a lot of people working for minimum wage. And if you're making a lot of money, you might be tempted to say, well, I'm too good to work for a minimum wage. I'm too good to serve coffee or flip burgers or do any of those minimum wage type jobs. But really, the reality is, if you're too good for it, what does that mean for the person that's doing that job? Not as a stepping stone job, but to make a living, because that's the only job they could find. Um, in a country that has so much in the way of resources, uh, even the lowest paid person should be able to make enough to put a roof over their heads, food in their stomachs, and clothes on their backs. And yet, some people have told me that, they're middle class and they made a decent wage. So if the people who, work at Tim Hortons or whatnot, or McDonald's or whatnot, had got any ambition and they maybe went to school, maybe they'd get better jobs. And I find that just extremely offensive. It's concentrated elitism. And it's something that seems to permeate from this idea of middle class, where everybody thinks that they're middle class and everyone else who makes less than them has to be beneath them. And the concept of middle class has been kept so darn high that most of the people are beneath them, and it creates it creates people that belittle other people. And I think that's what I find most offensive about it. If you're looking down your nose at other people, then you really need to reassess where you think you are on the hierarchy. Because I look at people like that, and no matter how much money they make, whether they want to consider themselves middle class or upper or lower, whatever class they want to consider themselves financially, that kind of attitude is really a no class attitude. And at the end of the day, the money you make is irrelevant. It's how we treat people and how we care for each other that really matters. And on that note, I think there is something from the 50s and 60s concept of middle class that we can bring forward and maybe bring back to society. And it doesn't cost a dime. I think we need more intact, cohesive families that cooperate with each other and don't see each other as the enemy at every turn. And we need communities that'll work together and support each other to create stronger places to live, to create better neighborhoods, to create children that have a greater sense of community and their place in the world as they grow up. Anyhow, that's all I have for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on Thursday. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, subscribe, and ring that bell for more content. Thank you very much. Until next time.